Hello and welcome back to the Second Chance to Live channel here on YouTube. I'm happy to see that you decided to stop by to watch this presentation. Thank you. In today's video presentation, I'm going to be sharing an article that I wrote yesterday. I create video presentations to share the information with individuals who learn through watching and listening. To read the article, I'll put my glass back on and bring up the article. I want to thank you for your time. Here's the article, Brain Injury and Overcoming Through a 12-Step Recovery Process. Experiencing a traumatic brain injury or an acquired brain injury can leave us feeling powerless to change what is and has occurred in our lives. In the event that we grew up in a home where there was alcoholism, substance abuse, or unresolved pain, or family secrets, our lives became unmanageable. Combined together, living with the impact of a brain injury with the unmanageability of living with the effects of the merry-go-round of denial can leave us feeling baffled and confused. In the process, we may try to make sense of what makes little sense. Unable to make sense, we may find that hope slowly deteriorates. Some 33 years ago, I was introduced to something that helped me to cope and find hope in my life. What I share below may help you to cope and find hope in your ongoing brain injury recovery process. Here's a quote. If nothing changes, nothing changes. If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get what you're getting. You Want Change, Make Some by Courtney C. Stevens. What I discovered, I am powerless over people, places, things in my brain injury. In my experience, I have found that I determine how I choose to experience my life. I am not saying that I'm able to control people, places, events, or my brain injury, because I'm not. To think that I have power to change people, places, things in my brain injury is foolishness. With my awareness, I have come to realize that having control or asserting control is merely an illusion of power. When I let go of the illusion of control, I am able to accept that I am powerless over people, places, things, and my brain injury. As I practice the power of acceptance, new doors are open to me. When I admit my powerlessness, I am able to admit my limitations. Through admitting that I have limitations, I discover that I am not helpless. When I realized that I was not helpless in and through my process, I had a spiritual awakening. Because I am not helpless, I am able to take action steps. These action steps give me the ability to accept the things that I cannot change, accept the things that I cannot change, to be able to let go of them and change the things that I can. Here's the serenity prayer, which is wonderful. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that's by Reinhold Niebuhr. I am not on my own to cope and create hope. Through my process, I have grown to trust a power greater than myself, who I choose to call God. Consequently, I have made the decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of that power, God. In the process, I made the decision to become a proactive participant in my life. Subsequently, I've been empowered to change the things that I can. As a proactive participant in my life, the obvious becomes apparent. I needed to change my attitudes and my perspective or perspectives that I placed on my experience. I needed to be honest with myself. I needed to be accountable to myself. I needed to keep the focus on myself. I needed to take a fearless moral inventory of myself, not to berate who I am, but to free the negative energy of my character defects or defects of character, getting rid of what no longer works. Through my process, I discovered that my defects of character were, in essence, the defense mechanisms that I used to protect myself over time. Through examining my motives and being honest with myself, I began to realize that my defense mechanisms were no longer serving me or enhancing my relationships. In actuality, I found that my defense mechanisms were hindering my ability to truly live my life. Through being honest with myself, I was slowly able to come out of hiding. My isolation was broken when I met with my sponsor and shared what I discovered about myself, trusting the process. As I trusted the process and shared my story, I discovered that I was not terminally unique. As my sponsor listened without judgment, I began to learn to trust again. In my trust, I became willing to have my defects of character removed. In the next action step, I humbly asked the God of my understanding to remove my character defects, making amends to relieve me of guilt and shame. My next action step involved making a list of the persons that I had harmed throughout my lifetime. I placed myself on that list. Next, I became willing to make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or other people. In my process, I shared such amends with my sponsor before I attempted to make those amends to those individuals who I believed I had harmed. In the next step, I made a decision to continue to be honest with myself and in the process keep my side of the street clean by continuing to make direct amends, being of service beyond myself. Next, I made a decision to trust again by praying for the knowledge of God's will for me and the power to carry that out on a daily basis. In the final step, as a result of completing the previous action steps, I had and continue to have spiritual awakenings. Consequently, I am motivated to share my experience, strength, and hope as I have the opportunity. My spiritual awakening or awakenings also inspire me to practice the principles of the 12 action steps in all my affairs. Synopsis of the 12 action steps, which I created to make it more understandable, maybe more personal. Below is a synopsis of the 12 steps adapted from the 12 steps of a number of 12-step recovery programs. Number 1, you may be powerless over many things, but you are not helpless. Although your life may seem unmanageable now, you no longer need to feel like a victim. Number 2, step 2, you do not have to be alone anymore to figure it out on your own. Step number 3, by making a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of a power greater than yourself, you will find an unlimited source of encouragement, motivation, empowerment, and hope. Step number 5, you can find out what you have been doing to sabotage your life. You can look for patterns that have undermined your life. Consequently, you will be able to stop shooting yourself in the foot of life. Step number 5, you no longer need to hide in the shadows. You can begin to trust. By admitting to a loving God, to yourself, and to another human being that you found in step 4 that has been sabotaging your life, you can find a new freedom, a freedom that you never knew existed. Through the process, you can make peace with God and with yourself. You can become, step number 6, you can become entirely ready to let go of the behaviors that you have been using to defend and in the process sabotage your relationships and yourself. Be encouraged, my friend. Step number 7, you can be entirely involved in the process of seeing the behaviors that have sabotaged your life and removed by humbly asking a loving God to remove the behaviors that sabotage your life and your relationships. Step number 8, in working in partnership with a loving God, you can make a list of the persons, including yourself, who you have who you have been harmed by participating in behaviors that have sabotaged your life and your relationships. By making a list of the persons you have negatively impacted or harmed that you gleaned or gain insight into through working and completing your fourth action step, you become willing to make direct amends to them all. Step number 9, you make direct amends once you have completed the first 8 action steps and you have talked with your sponsor to the people that you have negatively impacted by the behaviors that you have previously used to cope. Consequently, you can make peace with your fellows and in the process make peace with yourself. By completing this step, making amends, you can be released from the burden of guilt and shame. You can find a new freedom and happiness. Step number 10. On a daily basis, you continue to take personal inventory, and when you recognize that you have harmed others, you promptly admit those wrongs to the person or persons that you have harmed. On a daily basis, you continue to be accountable to and for your behavior. You choose to keep your side of the street clean. Step number 11. You do not have to live life each day by yourself. You can rely on a power greater than yourself to guide and direct your steps. You don't have to, excuse me, you don't have to lean on your own understanding. You can pray for the knowledge of God's will for you and the power to carry that out. You can trust the process of loving God and your ability to learn from your circumstances and experiences. In the process, you will be empowered to live the life that you have imagined. Step number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of working these 12 steps, you attempt to carry the message of the 12 steps to other people and continue to practice the principles of the 12 steps, in all your affairs. Empowering, not punitive. Note, the 12 action steps are not meant to be punitive in nature. Instead, the 12 action steps are designed to empower you and me to live life on life's terms while succeeding. The 12 action steps by divine design are meant to free the individual of self-defeating behaviors that sabotage and undermine their lives and their relationships. The 12 action steps by design empower the individual to be of maximum service to God and to their fellows. Note, in the original text, the 12 steps, we use we, again. In the original text, the 12 steps use we instead of you. I've used you instead of we to emphasize that you are powerless over people, places, and things. I've needed to keep the focus on myself as I work through the 12 action steps. Nevertheless, by participating in the 12-step recovery program, you never have to be alone. As I have heard mentioned, 12-step recovery programs are a we program. So the good thing about coming to a 12-step recovery program is that we never have to be alone again. The disease of alcoholism, as well as substance abuse, as well as other areas where there is unspoken rules of don't talk, don't trust, and don't feel, we can feel very isolated. By being involved in a recovery program, we begin to learn how to talk, trust, and feel. Losing serenity, taking the focus off me. In my experience, I have found that when I choose to take the focus off myself and place the focus on another person, place, event, or institution or thing, I miss the benefit that can be gained through working the 12 action steps with a sponsor. I found that when I am drawn to take the focus off myself and place the focus on someone or something else, that I need to work the 12 action steps. I have found that my triggers and my reactions are my triggers and reactions. They're not somebody else's triggers and reactions. Therefore, if I'm seeking to blame them for my triggers and reactions, I'm not working the 12 steps and I'm losing serenity. Not beating up on myself. In my experience, I've come to realize that the 12 action steps are not meant to point out where I'm not measuring up. Instead, the 12 action steps are meant to set me free from limiting behaviors and limiting beliefs that sabotage and undermine all of my relationships with the God of my understanding, other people, and with myself. The 12 action steps empower my ability to be a maximum service to a loving God and to myself. This is the end of the video presentation of this article. Before I go, let me encourage you with this. Please do not give up on yourself, a loving God, or your process, because more will be revealed to you and to me with time. The pieces of the puzzle will come together in the correct order and at the right time. I'll say so long for now. Have a great day, and God bless both you and your family. Bye now.